fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What we gonna eat no money, what we at you, eat no at you. Covid money, miss away in the your little rat you. Use the youth, the money, waste my must have statue. Say me like a catch you, but we got in a figure you. Take the skin from money, girl, and say that it's not you. One day the man above him, him a got a bet. Too much it in the kitchen, some a fly by like a patu. When singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300% raise.
It burn me.
Garbage pile up the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption face.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out with beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
Come me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The already promises, none of them no deliver. Cut up the youth, they rap and they down in our fever. Member bowl only and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me.
On the treat the market man.
It burn me.
On them a treat the cat man.
It burn me.
On them treat the peanut man.
It burn me.
On them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me.
On them a treat the son man.
It burn me.
On them a treat policeman.
It burn me.
On them a treat soldier man.
It burn me.
Stibbidim day, stibbidim day, stibbidim day. We in Global TV says certain kind of friend we no cape. And some informer friend we love Lake. We in Global, bona fake friend and bona tape. We in Global, we not promote them, we not support them. Look at them on the cheek, come here represent for we in Global TV. Check it.
Good morning, and welcome to Tyranny Just as Democracy. Welcome to the At a Glance program on your station, the Global Television Group. Thank you all for joining us this morning, to my community of party and all my family members, platform moderators, membership holders, viewers, subscribers, commenters, and trolls. Good morning and welcome. How wanna do? What a war. I mean, while the Prime Minister is away flaunting in India, smiling, shaking hands, exchanging this and that, opening embassies and cutting ribbons and all the fangled angles, the Prime Minister is still circumventing democracy at home. And that's the route we will go down this morning. The constitutional crisis we are in, where the executive is using the court to malign the legislature. The three bodies of the Constitution is at war. We will get there this morning, and we will go back to the timeline of where it all started. Me not go to the roll call this morning, but the whole honor knows welcome and lovely to be here. Thank you all for joining us. To you, the silent listeners, like and share the live, please, because we are going to have a talk about democracy this morning. And what I want you all to do this morning, I beg of you all, convince me that Colonel Charles Jr. is not one of the other 7 of the illicit enrichers. Please try and convince me that Colonel Charles Jr. is not under the illicit probe. Because boy, oh boy, the way Colonel Charles act for the Integrity Commission The way O'Pernell Charles a breed for the Integrity Commission, me no know when that the donkey there go drop that belly there. But we're going to go back to where it starts. I hope I got the right video for you. But we're not going to listen all of the fumbles and the dumbles them. But we're going to go back to where it starts.
Now have the floor.
This was where it all started. Once the report was unveiled and the Prime Minister started to spout bullshit, we listened to a bit of that because bullshit is unleashed in the Jamaica Labour Party.
Mr. Speaker,
I don't know if
Thursday,
you all have noticed,
September 5th, 2024,
but bullshit is
the
highly
Integrity Commission
unleashed
submitted
at the
an
moment.
investigation report, ruling, and special report to Parliament concerning an investigation into my statutory declarations for the year 2021. The reports have now been tabled, and I have since had a chance to read the concluding paragraphs of the ruling of the Director of Corruption Prosecution, the 5-page summary.
Bear in mind, this was Tuesday 2 weeks ago.
Recommendations and conclusions, while acknowledging that the report together totals just under 200 pages. The parts that I have read appear to give a sufficient sense of the findings. First, I welcome the fact that the report is finally tabled 2 years since this process began. I also take note of the fact that the Commission tabled both the report and the ruling of the Director of Corruption Prosecution at the same time. The last time this was not done. Based on what is said in the summary, queries were triggered because it is alleged that I had omitted bank accounts from my declaration.
We have to remind them of the disgrace, you see.
And one of these accounts was incorrectly reported as a US dollar balance by a financial institution. These matters were cleared as the accounts in question, by my recollection, were dormant, previously reported, and the balance in them were around Jamaican $3,000 and 200 euros. Subsequently, my declaration were once again referred for further scrutiny for accuracy and completeness. Other accounts were identified and alleged to be belonging to me, but undeclared. Some of these accounts were opened by my parents as far back as 1975, and my name later added, probably while I was still a child. Many Jamaicans add their children to their accounts for survivorship reasons and in the event of emergencies. I have never claimed these as my assets, and I am satisfied that the Director of Corruption Prosecution ruled that there was insufficient evidence to support claims that I intentionally omitted bank accounts from my declarations, and that there is greater evidence to support my explanation as opposed to evidence to the contrary. I also note that no other matter in the report was referred to the authorized authority, that is, the Director of Corruption Prosecution. The summary of the report outlined that my personal financial affairs from 2018 to 2023 was examined, including associate private third-party businesses and transactions. Over 3,600 transactions were examined, 28 bank accounts, over 80 witness statements collected. This effort to pursue me and my affairs led to the hiring of an international forensic accounting examiner for 6 months. As far as I am aware, only my 2021 declaration was submitted for investigation. after this most thorough interrogation of my personal affairs, which is not in any way connected to public funds or a benefit resulting from my office, they were unable to conclude regarding illicit enrichment. Nonetheless, they concluded
But notice him use the word illicit enrichment. But everyone instance still asks why they
in my net worth of 1.9 million Jamaican dollars, or less than 1% of my total net assets. I reject this finding based on materiality and significance. And while I have not had a chance to fully review the specifics of their calculations, just a cursory review of their formula, I have seen an error in figures.
All right, we're going to tap this up because we just remind them of them disgrace. We're going to move up to last week, Tuesday, at the Oversight Committee. Remember what we just listened to was Tuesday, 2 weeks ago, when the report was tabled. The Prime Minister flimsy and limsy and you know all of it. Carlos Wagner. Now let's move up. Come tell you need to convince me this morning that Colonel Charles Jr. is not one of the other illicit sevens. Let's move up to last week, Tuesday, at the Oversight Committee.
Chairman, if we ought not to be calling the IC before us to discuss the matter, to really investigate and determine, is this a matter of malicious prosecution, where clearly you see the inclusion of things intended to harm the declarant rather than to seek justice. These are matters that we have to explore because it is highly inappropriate, in my view, for an investigation to be completed and for there to now be an effort to redetermine the matter. Section 7 of the Integrity Commission Act speaks directly to cooperation between other bodies and agreement and arrangements, and it allows the Commission in the performance of its functions to cooperate with any person or body that it may deem appropriate, including those bodies that it is now seeking to redetermine this matter, that it itself has concluded. It's either that the IC is turning against itself, or that you have a situation here that is exposing itself as being a matter of corruption. And I must tell you, I am very concerned because as a nation, if we intend to address corruption, Mr. Chairman, we must ensure that those with the primary responsibility are not including any contaminated or corrupt operation in that effort. And I speak very seriously on it, boldly. This is laden with procedural irregularities. And I hear Member Paulwell saying that it has never been done. That is a weak argument in relation to addressing this matter that relates to our Prime Minister, who has been subjected to the most extensive and the most expensive investigation. And we must be very clear in ensuring that as a matter of law and principle, what is done here must be done with fairness at the forefront. Chairman, before us today is the ruling on the one matter that the Director of Investigation advanced to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. And I read, the Commission's Director of Corruption Prosecution has, pursuant to the provisions of the Integrity Commission Act, inclusive of the aforementioned sections 54(3)(b) and 54.4 of the Act and sections 34.1a and 34.1b thereof, reviewed the subject investigation report and has ruled that, open quotation, upon careful consideration, it was determined that no charges are to be laid, close quotation. Why is it that in the motion that has been advanced, you hear no reference to what the Director of Corruption Prosecution has determined further to an examination of what has been placed before her? The other matters that are discussed in the report were not even sufficient to be advanced to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for a determination.
Because the investigation
But
is
now we want to tell
incomplete.
Jamaica that we must drag a declarant, regardless of who the declarant is, through a whole new redetermination because you have failed before you completed your investigation to do your job. And I tell you, Mr. Chairman, what happens to one can happen to another. There are matters that have come before the Integrity Commission and the then Contractor General that I will raise at another place to remind members and to remind those that are making much ado of this and trying to extend it to a place where it ought not to go, of what occurred when they were the ones on trial. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that as a matter of procedure, and when you examine the process, we have no choice but to ensure that before this goes any further or anywhere else, that some questions are answered as it relates to the process, the procedure, and what I see as an unfortunate effort to extend this in an inappropriate way. There are legal principles.
All right. Remember saying, remind me, I build up to yesterday. So that was at the Oversight Committee. Bear in mind that I think, is it not this Thursday that the commissioners are meant to be at the Oversight Committee, which is expected to be a fireworks. All right? Now we're moving up to yesterday. And we're going to do the bullshit one by one. You don't have to stay with it, you know, people. Because we are shown the pattern that has been deployed from the last 3 weeks back, but has been intensified since the last 2 weeks. Okay, let's go to Parliament yesterday.
Mr. Speaker, whereas there is a ministerial code of conduct in place from 2002 that governs the conduct of members of the cabinet, and whereas the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity...
Member, please.
But I don't even need to hear another word. If the member in any way intends to go...
Hey, Mr. The JLP have a new flack of Batman where drive me up the wall, you know. I don't know. Hey, it's like them a drive me up the wall, them a try to make me climb mountain backward, because when this set of Batman speak like Hero, Clark, Floyd, Green, Nestor Morgan, Upcuffits, Henley, hey, I want to climb walls backwards. Bunch of faggots.
Down a road. That is, you can't understand if you don't listen. Permit yourself to use your ears and not your mouth. Permit yourself to use your ears and not only your mouth. If it...
This is why Portia Simpson shouldn't left Parliament. You know, can't fix Portia Simpson back. Somebody need to get Portia back into Parliament, because only Portia could answer passes like these in a them occasion, yeah. Bring back Portia.
Is that the member intends to travel down a road that is going to breach the standing orders in raising matters, let me just say it before, that are sub judice. Hold on, I'm just telling you, that cannot be accommodated in this house. So if that is the route, if that is the intention, that is the intention.
You see,
if that is the intention.
You see what our honorable host becomes? Colonel Charles Jr.'s host. Are you really observing what our honorable host has become?
Stop now.
Member, you start on a premise. And as far as the standing order is concerned, I hear the first part of where you're going and section 20, public business, 22, sorry, notion of motion, amendment and manner of giving notice, section 3. If the speaker is of the opinion that any notice of a motion which has been received by the clerk infringe the provisions of any standing order in any way out of order, he may direct that the member concerned be informed that the notice of motion is out of order, that the notice of motion be entered in the order paper with such alteration as he might direct. Member, I am saying, because there is, when I read from the Erskine May parliamentary practice, paragraph 2, page 333, matters awaiting judicial decisions, that the motion relates to a matter that is now before the court, and if it is, because there is a matter now under judicial consideration, it ought not to be discussed as it is sub judice. At this time, I am now ruling that this motion will not be entertained.
Oh,
Member,
all right.
if the I just made the I am saying to you, member, if it has anything to do with the matter that I just spoke about, then I'm ruling it out of order. We are not going to entertain it.
Yes, thank you. Mr.
No, we don't have to hear it. And if I am going to stop you again if you go down that road.
Mr. Speaker, you've indicated this matter is sub judice. I'm not aware of that. However, what this motion engages is simply a matter
we are not
of a breach
member,
of the ministerial code of conduct.
We are not
By the
member. There is a
If Mr. Golden and the People's National Party is not aware of the Prime Minister's legal case, how would they be breaking the sub judice rule? How would they? If they're not aware of the Prime Minister's court case, how would they? Circumventing democracy, it's called.
there's
Go with.
Members, I'm not so sure why you descend into such loud discussions.
Mr. Speaker.
Right. The bit that make me want to jump out of my chair now is coming up. And even before she speak, I'm going to tell Juliet Holness, take it there and shove it up your bloody ass now. Take it, that explanation, and shove it up your bloody ass now.
And myself, particularly as Speaker, have repeated on many occasions that things need to get to the Parliament with adequate time so that we can read and we can ensure we follow the proper procedures. We were in fact notified by email that a motion would come, but it didn't come until just before I got to Parliament. And it does take some time to review and ensure that motions are properly laid. A signed copy of the motion came to me at the desk when Member Paulwell came to the desk during the sitting of the Parliament. And I just came out for a moment a while ago and I note the opposition walking out. I was coming back to tell them I'd gone out because I was just completing my review so that they could go ahead and debate if they so choose. However, even though they heard as much, they continued to walk out.
Shove up your bloody arsenal, love. Shove that silly explanation up your bloody arsenal. So in turn then, Juliet, you're telling us that Eroy Clark aired the rules yesterday because you, according to your twisted Virego mentality, is that they can debate the motion if they so choose. So therefore, Eroy Clark aired. Did he not? So what will be the redress for this? You see, no, convince Mr. Pernell Charles. Pernell Charles is one of the illicits. No, convince me, no. No, convince me. We notice. No, try to convince me. Sir Pernell Charles has something to hide. But let us listen. We march up to Mr. Golden's statement. To no turn, man, we have time. Turn. Let us move on to Pernell Carlos. Turn up on your big toe or bite your big finger because more of Pernell Charles coming up.
It is unfortunate that the opposition, and I say this with all seriousness, because Jamaica is watching us. It is so unfortunate that the opposition has chosen to walk out on this issue.
Fingers. We're listening to your
The opposition is led by an attorney at law who is fully aware that there is no ambiguity in the rule of sub judice. It is a rule that is essential in preventing interference in legal proceedings and preventing the risk of undermining the fairness of any trial or any matter that is before the court being adjudicated. But what will happen is that they will use it as a tool to attempt to cause persons looking on to think that there is an effort to block the motion. And that is what is unfortunate, the continuous effort to manipulate the minds of Jamaican people. And what I find disgusting is the discussions around integrity by persons who are willing to break down the integrity of this court proceeding for their own pursuit of power. In the pursuit of power, they are willing to breach, destroy, and cast away the rules.
Too much of that bullshit propaganda. The danger here, my people, this is a constitutional warfare. The three branches, the three governing branches of the Constitution is the Parliament, which is the legislature, the executive, which is Andrew Holness and his cabinet and departments, and the judiciary, the courts. Now, here you have a system where an investigative body of government compiled a report on the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is being referred to for further investigations of his business and personal financial dealings to compare with his assets. The Prime Minister, in a bid to cover his embarrassment, now it turns out is using the courts to block proceedings in Parliament. So if the Prime Minister is launching a judicial review, then this should also block the oversight committee from probing the IC commissioners coming up soon, because it is in court. So everything got to hold. I hope that principle is observed on that front. But the danger here is where a tyrannical dictator is using the courts to prevent proceedings of the legislature, which protects him, the head of the executive. Do you see the dirty water? Do you see the dirty water that we're in as a country with Andrew Holness' grip and power, with Andrew Holness' failure to take responsibility, with Andrew Holness' failure to honor his words, going at any length, intimidating and threatening the Integrity Commission? Do you all see the danger that we're in as a country? Do you now understand why I always say no government, Labour or PNP, should ever be given such a majority in our parliament? It's dangerous. When you have a self-serving tyrannical government like Andrew Holness, such a majority in the legislature is dangerous. They can put anything through parliament breaching your rights. They can put anything through parliament dismantling your constitutional structure. It is a danger to have such a majority in one party. And this is where we end up in this debacle, where Andrew can use his majority in parliament to circumvent even the motion yesterday, if it was accepted and debated, given how the entire party is gyrating over Andrew Holness. It was never going to get passed. They were all going to vote it down. So we would still end up into that very stalemate where we're stuck with Andrew Holness same way. But let's listen to after Mark Golden and his team went outside to complete their motion.
Garden House in the House of Representatives. I was prevented from doing so on what I regard to be a spurious basis, a basis that cannot hold water. The basis that was put forward was that the matters on which my motion was based are now sub judice. In other words, because the Prime Minister has apparently sought judicial review of certain matters arising from what the Integrity Commission has decided in relation to his matter. However, my motion is not dealing with the substance of that report, but is dealing with his own conduct as Prime Minister. And I wish to read the motion now so you can hear it. Whereas there is a ministerial code of conduct in place from 2002 that governs the conduct of members of the cabinet, and whereas the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission from as far back as August 2023 for illicit enrichment, and whereas the concealment of this information by the Prime Minister is a breach of the ministerial code of conduct that guided the Prime Minister in removing from office ministers serving in the cabinet over which he presided, and whereas the annual reports of the Integrity Commission for 22-23 and for 23-24 stated that several members of Parliament, initially 6 and then 8, were under investigation for illicit enrichment, but none had come forward to disclose that he or she was under investigation, and whereas the Integrity Commission's investigation report on the 17th September 2024 tabled in Parliament named the Prime Minister as being under investigation for illicit enrichment, and whereas the Prime Minister, as Chairman of Cabinet, instructed members of Cabinet not to divulge the name of any member under investigation for illicit enrichment, contrary to the spirit of the Ministerial Code of Conduct, and whereas the actions of the Prime Minister have caused and continue to cause severe damage to the trust necessary for good order and respect for public office, be it resolved that this Honourable House condemns the Prime Minister for not maintaining ethical standards of transparency and openness in government. Secondly, censures the Prime Minister for his acts of covering up and concealment of the names, including his own, of those members of the Cabinet and or Parliament of which he was and may still be aware, but has kept them in positions of influence in the Cabinet with the effect of further undermining public trust in the institutions of government, and declares that the actions of the Prime Minister have severely undermined his credibility and trustworthiness, and that he no longer enjoys the confidence of this House. That was the motion that was to be put forward today and hopefully debated next week. We did not want it debated the same day that it was tabled. The Prime Minister is not here in Jamaica. That would not be right or proper. However, we were not allowed to proceed with the tabling of the motion because the Speaker herself had removed herself because the matter affected her husband, and the Deputy Speaker ruled that the motion was improperly brought in breach of the standing orders, relying on the sub judice rule, and so the motion will not go forward. And we think that that is an abuse of the rules of Parliament, and no confidence motions have a very high place in our constitutional arrangements. If a no confidence motion is passed in Parliament, the Governor-General has to dissolve Parliament and call elections. So that is in section, I think, 64 of the Constitution, subsection 5. So for them to block the opposition from bringing a motion on the alleged basis that the matter is sub judice is really, in my view, a bad and sad day for our democracy. Again, it's an example of freedom of speech, freedom of association, our democratic principles being undermined by the misuse of power by the majority in Parliament. It's a very serious matter, and that is why we asked the media to come and hear what we had to say. Thank you.
The truth is, Mark Golden, I understand you putting the motion forward. Given how these people are gyrated over Andrew Holness, you don't have the majority for a motion to be effective. You would need a lot of Andrew backbenchers on board voting with you to have that motion of no confidence successfully pass. Joseph Tudor missed one. Eh. Or Justin Tudor missed one the other day and him have many more coming. But when it comes to the majority at the moment, you don't have the numbers to really force a vote and win the vote. So it wasn't going to be successful. It was more symbolic. What I think would be more effective, Mark Golden and the PNP, is to take the country to the bloody street. Who says you cannot do it? Who says it's traitorous or treasonous to do it? Take the people and the country to the street. That will be more effective against the Labour Party. And by extension, will force them to push Andrew out. With these cronies and crows gyrating over Andrew Holness, even on record dead, it wasn't going to make much of a difference to a leader that has no integrity.
That I stand in full support
of the best Prime Minister
since 1962.
Is the man of integrity, love,
And I'm very lucky to have an outstanding Prime Minister, a leader that we can be so proud of.
the transformation.
I just gave away 87 black tanks.
Is the best we have had. Southwest St. Elizabeth is in full support. Ladies first. Of
the most honorable, I should say, Dr.
Andrew Michael Holness.
How could I not support a leader who is moving Jamaica forward?
Andrew Holness, continue to be the leader you are.
And I'll do everything in my powers to ensure that he
lead until he is ready to go.
Prime Minister and party leader, Andrew Holness.
You hear what Darrell Vaz says under his breath? Lead until he's ready to go. Did you see how angry Darrell Vaz was? It's like there was somebody in a side room pointing a gun at Darrell Vaz and said, "You must cheer for the leader, Mr. Vaz. You must cheer for the leader. You must cheer for the leader." But this is the squabble that we're in as a country. This is the squabble that we end up in as a country, where the Prime Minister has proven time and time over he has no respect for the law. The Prime Minister has never won a constitutional court, even against Arthur Williams and Christopher Tufton, where it really started. Andrew started to deploy his corrupt practices on his very own, you know. When you look back at the Christopher Tufton and the Arthur Williams story, where Andrew Holness gave them signed, undated, give them letter to sign, undated letter to sign, and thereby when Andrew get fed up at them, Andrew can just put on a date and say, "You're fired there. You are fired." It is this same Andrew that is rubbing up in front of the appeals court in order to make sure him keep a corrupt prosecutor there. Andrew has always failed in front of the court when it comes to a constitutional argument. Because according to Andrew, the IC made decision, the decision that the IC made was unlawful, unfair, and they've used an unconstitutional law. I don't understand the last part, where the Prime Minister is saying the law that the IC used was unconstitutional. maybe the Prime Minister's legal team will be able to explain that in court and at a later date. Then we can understand what the hell is going on. But when you hear the Labour right them talk, tell them, take it and shove it up your arsenal there. None of us are listening. I mean, it's far beyond what one would want to listen to. Shove it. Even on a fraudulent election, when find it possible to still walk around with the commotion behavior.
Back is not supposed to come and dance. No, back supposed to come. Back supposed to come out of car and go straight in a police. You must be sick. Where they are? Come on, man. We're not fool. At 8th election run, I mean, never see this yet. Oh, joking thing on the pan. See if you are back in there, any PD where you want to put your back there, put the president of the camera. I want to know about
Junior. The Phantom stuff the back.
Lion, where you there?
I go for box to that, sir.
Them police, yeah. The presiding officer got parked. Me never see boxer ground, boxer going in a EOJ. Me downstairs. Me no want nobody touch me. Me want to
bloody hand. Me
not supposed to box up that ground.
Yeah, get that.
Me not in a this. Yeah, let's try to get to the one. Go, but if you fall, you box them. No matter what them say, box them from me. Nobody in here box them. No answer. I'm tell council don't sell me no without the I mean.
When see when Tam there stuff the box? Me say when see when Tam roll up the whole much ballot paper and stuff in the box. Nobody go on like you know see. Don't go on like you know see when Tam there stuff the box. But the more you listen to the Labour right them, and the more you observe them, the more of them come to social media. Not all of them, you know, they're good Labourites. There's sensible Labourites out there. But there's a section of the diehards out there that have a relationship with like Pigpen. You know, everything is rubbing and brushing against the wall. It's like they're scrubbing off the mud, or them want to go walla in mud. You know, it's the sort of approach the Labour right them take. I mean, Tom went down there to stuff the box. Horace Chang. We soon have stuff the box, you know. We soon have stuff the box. So nobody go on like say we never soon have stuff the box. So when roll and Tom roll up the ballot paper and push in the box.
Back is not supposed to come and dance. No, back supposed to come. Back supposed to come out of car and go straight in a police. You must be sick. Where they are? Come on, man. We're not fool. At 8th election run, I mean, never see this yet. Oh, joking thing on the pan. See if you are back in there, any PD where you want to put your back there, put the president of the camera. I want to know about
Junior. Come here.
Lion, where you there?
I go for box to that, sir.
Them police, yeah. The presiding officer got parked. Me never see boxer ground, boxer going in a EOJ. Me downstairs. Me no want nobody touch me. Me want to box them. Go in the office.
Take your bloody hands off me, you dry blood hands.
Me not in a this.
Yeah, let's try to get to the one. Go, but if you fall, you
box them. No matter what them say, box them from me. Nobody in here box them. No answer. I'm tell council don't sell me no without the I mean.
You see, as she start talk, as she see them stuff the box and she start talk, you see the whole of the culprit them walk away, the Horace Chang, the Tam Tavares, and all the other rest of thief them. We'll go down there, go buy and thief boat and stuff box in order to win an election. Because Labour realize them can't win nothing fair in a Jamaica again. And if them listen to even them friend Cliff Hughes, them friend Cliff Hughes I want them and tell them, and them are going like they not listen. That's like me like when Cliff drop it for them sometime. Because they say, them are going like say, them not here. But we know uno are here and uno are see what going out here.
No, sir.
Yes. Well, I hope your party is hearing you, you know. Yeah, because they seem like
I wonder. They listen to your program, but I really wonder if them know where really I take this and the fire that must tell them.
a cool breeze. You know, I often draw on the experience. You will remember. You remember after it was either the 1997 or 2000. It was 2001 general election when it was close. I think the PNP won with 34 and the JLP got 26 seats. It was either 97 or 2000, 2002 or 2001 election.
Yeah, I remember the close. There's a close election. I'm going to tell me remember the date good, but
right.
Remember, yeah.
And you remember who was the prime minister at the time? PJ
Patterson.
Right. And you remember what he did? He took out Maxine Henry Wilson and the late Paul Robertson out of the cabinet and tell them, go to PNP headquarters, go organize the party.
Yes, I remember clearly.
Yes, to go win the election because the party had clearly, been losing it.
Yeah, and they were falling behind.
They were falling behind. Yes?
Yeah.
No. I don't see that happening here with this Labour Party. Everybody want in a government. And nobody and them not seem to understand, say, you can't be in a government if Belmont Road run down and not go on a Belmont Road and you not take care of the mother, the party. They not seem to understand it that sooner rather than later there will be no government because the mother starve, want milk, food. Yeah? They not seem to understand it and the PNP gets it. The PNP knows that without a viable, clicking party, there is no chance of being in government. Yeah? Them not seem to understand it. Everybody look for themselves in a government. And I realize, say, you left the party, nobody no want give up ministerial position and the car and the whatever. Yeah? For to take care of Belmont.
All is mine right now.
Exactly.
Come out, I'm a whatever. Go out, brother, come out, and then you can go back.
Yes. Yes. So, make them stay there. Yes, as you said, fire their Muslims.
What Cliff is saying to them, greed a killer. Greed a killer. Nobody concerned about the party or the country. Everybody is about them personal ambitions, the power and the perks what them can get at the moment. At that, why the whole on a gyrate pan Andrew and why the whole on should end up going to prison with Andrew Holness. The whole on of conspirators should go to prison with Andrew Holness. Because Andrew Holness, one, never walk and commit so much crime. Andrew Holness, one, never walk and swindle so much money. The man with the wash pan, the man with the scrubber board, leaching good morning, you know? Them people that will walk with them wash pan and them scrubber board, the J's, Dettol, and washing brush. Them people who stand idle by, them people who backdate receipts in ministry. They all should go to prison. Just like Oprah Beyonce, Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, and all of them must follow Diddy go down and Usher too. All of them must go on a prison. One have committed enough crime against we the people. One must go on. And when I go on and drag down Shaini with her, because since she dead, she just a walk and torment with so. When I have to go learn to bury the labor right them in a deep grave. Don't make the mistake and bury none of them shallow like a Shaini again. Because ever so often, you may just find them roll up after you. So when we're going to bury Mike Henry, we need backhoe for dig Mike Henry grave. Because we don't want Mike Henry come roll up again until we say, see me here, vote for me. No, sir. Jesus Christ, boy. May I tell you, a them your tiger say you buck up in a danger, you buck up in a death trap. We cannot continue like this. The people of Jamaica must take to the street. Andrew Holness, with control over two of the branch of government, the legislature and the executive, is using the court to reinforce himself in a power. And also democracy work. That's not how democracy works. Andrew used one branch of government to silence another branch. And those how democracy work. I don't know why anybody at Jamaica now understands that your rights, your freedom is at risk. And you must take a stand against this government. Because this government not caring. Government not care about we. It's a game of numbers, Mark Golden. All of we know say politics is a game. Some people take it literal and some people take it real. We were higher up there in the knowledge base, understand the game. Politics is a numbers game. Andrew is playing on the numbers game he has in the legislature, where Mark Golden don't have. Mark Golden need to use his number game against Andrew Holness, where Mark Golden's favorability is rising in the country against Andrew Holness, and Mark Golden needs to deploy that. When you sit down on the hands too long, I don't know why them not hit the like button, you know. I mean, I don't know why them not do the phone ride. Why me start to quarrel with them people? I'm just fed up. God know me tired. Me can't quarrel with them no more. Me fed up. What I deal with? What happened to the finger? And what? When nothing me a somebody to? Or the work when me I do don't really matter. When you can't hit the like button. When you don't make way voila, in a dot like the labor right them every day over the little likes. Good God Almighty. And what's up? Well, if you can't hit the like button, hit the link in at the top of the chat, and you can donate this and support the problem, and then we don't have to quarrel with none of no. Jesus have mercy. Every day, every day, every day. Same galangin. No, sir. We can't manage. You mean say every day when you come to school, teacher have to fling dust a little in on your face? Good God. You're not afraid of even the chalk mark on your face? Come on now. Me say if you're not afraid of the chalk mark, or every class when you come, we have to fling the duster and lick in your face. Says, pay attention. Hit the like button. Share the live. Well, I'm going to bring you a piece of information. I don't know if it's going to affect my YouTube channel. I'm taking the risk because it's information we need to know. The information that she will be speaking about I have pinned that information in the description area. It's relation to a document that has been accepted at the UN 79th Annual General Assembly. So take a listen, read the document for yourself. It's in the description area. You can just hit the link, and the document that says updated, that's the one, that's the top link. You just hit that, and it takes you to the reading material that you all need to know. All we need to know about it.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and I want to do a quick update about a document that got passed by the United Nations this weekend called the Pact of the Future document. It's two parts, one on science and technology and one about the youth and future generations. It is quite egregious, and it was done by a procedure called the silence procedure, which makes it a pact. And if no one objected, it is automatically adopted and put into the record as being completely adopted. This is the World Health Organization's runaround, or end around. Since they were not able to get the World Health Organization treaty passed, they decided to take it to the General Assembly. And it is even more egregious than what the World Health Organization was wanting to get passed. Let me just read you something really quickly about what is inside of this pact that is now being accepted by 193 nations around the world and equally open-armed accepted by our current administration. Everyone, it says that this is the power structure, fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID that marks them not just as citizens of an individual country, but as a global citizen. So anytime you hear global citizen or anytime you hear sustainability, think that this is an egregious thing that's happening at the level of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Anyone that has a dissonant opinion will be labeled as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation and memory hold. Perpetrators for unapproved information will be fact-checked and punished by the system, which will be operated and enforced by artificial intelligence. Punishments will include being locked out of one's bank account, being unable to make certain purchases, unable to get on an airplane, on a subway, drive on public roads. This is the future, according to the world's self-appointed overlords at the United Nations. These are unelected bureaucrats that are making decisions about our country, our sovereignty around the world. Nothing could be more important at this point in time than to get prepared. Have water, food, digital access, flashlights, a way to communicate with family and friends. Now is really the time to get involved and get prepared, because this is what's coming. Our Congress is sitting on its hands. There was a press conference on the 17th about this, and no further action has been taken. So it's up to us to mobilize and to go forward, particularly with your local sheriffs, to get your constitutional sheriffs to say, this isn't going to be allowed in my county. Thank you very much. Take action. We've been talking about the onset of one world order, one world government, one world religion, one world money for a long time. Well, it's no longer coming. It's here.
Right. The information related to what she's spoken about is pinned in the description area. I advise you read for yourself. The document is there. Go through it for yourself and read the document. All right? It's called the Pact for the Future. And when you go on it, the first one that you see said updates PDF. The one that says A/RES 97/1. You hit that link and it will allow you to download or open the document from the UN Summit and read it. And it's under the UN website, Summit of the Future. So you can go to the World Health Organization or the UN website and read a lot of these forthcoming rules and regulations. You know, we don't want to talk much about certain things, but please do read that document for yourself. If you have children, make sure your children read the document for themselves. All right? Can't say wanna never be warned. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. Alrighty. Hold on there. One of my researcher just sent me something. Let me look. Wow. Anyway, my people, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your support. And don't forget, if you're at home, meaning in Jamaica, you must take a stand to protect your democracy. Your democracy is under threat. Your current head of the executive, because of his majority, have no respect for the legislature, have no respect for the judicial system, and thereby makes this prime minister a threat to our democracy. We cannot and should not allow this to continue. Thank you, and good afternoon, and good morning from the Global Television Group.